All right, let's talk about trash talk. We've all been there, right? Whether you're in a video game or playing sports, you've either dished it out or you've taken it. But what is it really? Is it just some harmless fun, or is it actually a powerful psychological weapon? Oh man, if you've ever played a competitive online game like Rocket League, you know this one. You know it all too well. It pops up in the chat, spammed over and over again, not because you made a great play, but as a sarcastic gut punch right after the other team scores.
I mean, it's designed to get under your skin, right? To make you tilt, to throw you completely off your game. But the big question is, does taunting your opponent actually work? Is it a real strategy? Well, the science says it's complicated.
To figure this out, we've got to look at the research. And what it shows is this. Well, it's a total paradox. It turns out that talking smack can either light a fire under your opponent, or it can completely tear them down. Okay, so get this. You'd probably expect trash talk to make someone play worse, but a study from Georgetown University found the exact opposite. They had students play a simple online game, and the players who got hit with some provocative comments beforehand, they actually performed way better than the group that just got some friendly chit-chat.
See, this is how it can totally backfire on the person talking smack. One of the researchers, Jeremy Yip, calls it generating instant rivalry. All of a sudden, the game isn't just about winning anymore. It becomes personal. Now you have this extra motivation to not just win, but to make sure that guy loses.
But here's the twist. While that extra motivation might help you with a simple task, it can be a huge distraction when things get more complicated and you really need to focus.
Think about it. It's like a mental penalty. Your brain has to actually process those insults, and that takes up bandwidth. It breaks your concentration and can stir up feelings like anger or shame. And sure enough, in studies on more complex games like Mario Kart or even creative puzzle solving, that emotional load made people perform significantly worse.
So we've got this weird paradox. But who's actually doing all this trash talking? And is it just something that happens online when people are anonymous? Well, let's take a look at what the data from traditional sports has to say.
You know, it's really easy to think online gaming is this uniquely toxic place, but the numbers might surprise you. One study found that trash talk happens in about 1 out of every 3 college sports games. That's almost the exact same frequency that players report in games like Rocket League. So, yeah, it's just as common in the real world. To really dig into this, researchers went straight to the source. They surveyed hundreds of top university athletes across all kinds of sports. They didn't just want to know if people talk trash. They wanted to know what they're actually saying to each other on the field. And one of the first things that jumped right out of the data was a pretty significant gender divide. Across the board, we're talking about everything from an opponent's skill to their looks to even their personal lives. Men reported both using and hearing trash talk a lot more than women did.
The type of sport you're playing makes a big difference too. The data shows that sports with a lot of direct physical contact, football, hockey, wrestling, have way more trash talk than non-contact sports like swimming or rowing. It kind of makes sense, right? The more physical the game, the more verbal it gets.
Okay, so this brings up that classic idea, doesn't it? That being anonymous is what makes people meaner, whether you're behind a keyboard or, say, a football helmet. But surprisingly, it's not that simple. The same study looked at athletes in combat sports and found that wearing a face mask didn't really change how much people trash-talked. A wrestler with no mask at all was just as likely to get into it as a fully padded football player. So all of this leads us to what is maybe the most important question in this whole conversation. Where exactly do you draw the line between a bit of competitive banter and actual harmful abuse?
First, let's get the official definition down. Academically speaking, trash talk is seen as a strategic tool. The point isn't just to be mean for the sake of it. The goal is to get a competitive edge, and the focus is always on the game itself.
And within that definition, there are a few different flavors. You've got your ridicule and intimidation, taunts about the game. There's self-aggrandizement, which is just boasting about how good you are. And then there's lighthearted banter, which is more about friendly teasing.
Now let's flip the coin and talk about toxicity. And you'll see the definition here is totally different. The goal is not a strategic advantage. The only intention is to be hurtful or offensive. The focus shifts from the game to the person.
And this is the line. This is where it crosses over. We're talking about things like flaming, which is just hostile abuse, or griefing, like deliberately sabotaging your own team. And then, most seriously, you have hate speech, Attacks on someone's identity, serious threats, telling people to harm themselves. This isn't part of the game anymore. This is just abuse.
So why does all this matter? Why is it so important to draw a clear line between a sarcastic "what a save" and genuine toxicity, especially now, when so much of our lives are digital?
Well, online platforms can create what some people call a pressure cooker effect. Think about it. In a real-life game, you can respond to a taunt. But online, especially with things like Rocket League's quick chat, you can't really fire back. That frustration has nowhere to go, and it just builds and builds.
And that's why this is so important. By clearly defining that line, we can build healthier competitive communities. It helps platforms moderate things better, and it helps us as players understand the psychology of what's happening and know when someone has crossed the line.
So, that leaves us with a final question to think about. As our games and competitions become more and more digital and more anonymous, the way we talk smack is changing. So the real question for all of us is, how do we, as a community, decide what's fair game and what's just completely out of bounds?